Hello, welcome back to another episode of Cowbell Podcast. How are you, Dave?
I'm well, mate. How are you?
I'm excellent, mate. Yeah. So today episode, I think we have a very special guest. I guess very different from other guests we have interviewed and invited to our podcast. Her name Miah Noble. I think a lot of you probably have heard of her. Have seen her race. Very young lady, with a lot of potential elite runner. Today, yeah, have a great opportunity to invite her to talk about her story. Something that like a lot of people may not have opportunity to know. Very interesting background. Yeah. So Mia, thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Mia, I think yeah, it would be great. I guess I mean before we drill down to your background, like maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into running, and your journey. Something that yeah, definitely worth sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I grew up in New South Wales and I used to hate running when I was younger. I loved team sports, so I played netball, any school sport. And I remember during COVID, so 2020, during the first lockdown, I was so upset because I just started going to the gym and I thought I was really cool lifting weights and wasn't allowed to go to the gym anymore and was like afraid that I would lose all my gains and set a little challenge for myself to see how far I could run within the distance we were allowed in lockdown. And I would try to run a couple of kilometers and then each day work up. And there was this route from my house to the lighthouse, and that was a 5K route. And I remember hitting it and getting to 5K. And then I was like, right, now I want to try and do 10K. And it just progressively went on, and I became addicted and hooked. And it was the thing that kind of got me through COVID. And then one of my family friends told me that I was really good at running and that they wanted me to get in contact with one of the local running coaches. So got in contact with him and was just welcomed to this beautiful group of runners. And I guess I just had no idea about anything to do with running. I didn't know what paces were. I didn't know like that races even really existed. And I joined this running group and did really well in races, and everyone sort of, like, you're so young, like you're doing so well. And I loved it, but behind the scenes was also juggling with an eating disorder. But was something that I wasn't actually really aware of. It started quite innocently. I sort of didn't realize that you had to eat more when you ran more. And I have OCD, so I fixate on certain things, and
Mhm.
the concept of having to eat more, I couldn't fathom. So I sort of thought that I was fine, even though I was losing more and more weight the further I ran. And then because I was only 16, my mum, she sort of took me in and to the doctors, and they told me that if I didn't stop running, then I was gonna get really, really sick. And I would have to go to hospital and potentially could die with the rate I was going, the weight I was at. And I didn't really care. I was sort of just, I just want to run. I don't care if I don't can't have kids. I just wanted to sort of, follow that journey. And then they said, that's it, no running, your bed rest. I wasn't even allowed to walk to the mailbox. And it was in that moment where I was like, I need to get better because I want to be able to run again. So started running. Started eating more and gained the weight that they needed me to gain. And then everyone sort of thought I was fine because I'd gained the weight back. And in a span of 2 weeks, decided that I was going to move to Melbourne because I was had this team that I wanted to transition into and thought they were really cool. And where I was from was Port Macquarie, and it was a very small place. So there wasn't
Mm.
much growth when it came to running. So I'm very impulsive. So told mum I was moving to Melbourne and moved there all by myself, and I was only 18. And as soon as I moved here, probably like 2 days in, got two stress fractures, one in one leg, one in the other leg, and wasn't able to run. And just was like really depressed and couldn't run at all, and sort of just had to battle through that. And then I met my partner Tom, and he showed me what trail running was, and I didn't even know that was a thing. And it sort of fit in with my recovery because the physio that I was seeing said that for my rehab, getting back into running, I had to run on trail terrain. And I went to his first running race, which I'm pretty sure was a roller coaster or GCR. It was one of those. And I remember being so jealous that I couldn't race. And I said to him, I'm going to race at this run next year. I'm going to make sure that my legs and bones get better. And then, yeah, I just kept trying different types of training runs with Tom and sort of just did everything Tom did and slowly build up. And my bones got stronger with the trail. A lot better than road running because road running, I think, is just a lot more impact on your
Mhm.
bones and did my first trail race at Archie at the Oscars, and that was a heart to heart at heart to heart. But that was like not planned at all because I was just going to go there to support Tom, and he was doing the 100K and the 50K, and then also the 10K. And I was like, oh, well, if you can do the 100K, then I'll do the 50K with you. And that when he finished the 100K, he had like some really bad ITV issues. And that morning he was like still gonna do it because it's him, but he was like, I don't know how fast I'm gonna be able to run. And we started and we got like 5K in and he was running very, very slow. And he said, you need to go. Like, I want you to run, like I'm gonna hold you up. So he kind of pushed me forward and I just went down 4 mile and I had never like the furthest I'd ran in trail was like a little bit of Arthur's seat. So I had never done any ups or downs. Ran down 4 mile and I was like, what the hell is this? Had no like nutrition or anything on me because Tom had my flasks and my food. So I was running down 4 mile and then I just remember being absolutely gobsmacked that you had to run through a lake. Like to me, that was just absurd. I was like, what the hell? So then I remember going through the lake and then just getting some food, calling Tom and saying like, like what am I supposed to do? And he just told me to get lollies from the aid station and try and drink water because it wasn't good that I didn't have any water on me. And anyway, made it through and absolutely loved it. I was like, thought this is the coolest thing ever. And came fourth female, which was sick because it was something that like I had never thought I would ever do and wasn't supposed to do. And then from that day onwards, I would say was like my running career sort of skyrocketed and I don't think I'll ever look at road running again because yeah, there's something about trail running that's pretty special and it's something that I think everything happens for a reason and I reckon that yeah, as shitty as the things were, I'm very glad that those things happened and got me to where I am now.
Right, okay. Let's unpack all of this for a second
Yes.
now, because we've delved into the whole gamut there, and there's so much to talk about. And you are young as you say, and what you're 20 now?
20, yeah.
When's your 21st?
Uh End of September.
End of September. Okay. So let's rewind. Uh, 5 years ago, you're a teenager in Port Macquarie.
Yeah.
This is pre-COVID. I think
Yeah.
we've gone far enough. Well, virtually, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, geez, time's getting on. Anyway, 5 to 6 years ago, 14, 15-year-old in Port Macquarie, not doing any running. Some beautiful trails in Port Macquarie, but you start running on the track. Your family, your friends. Obviously, there was stuff going on as a teenager. In a teenager in a rural coastal town in New South Wales, and I'm fascinated by this because uh, not that I li have ever lived. Oh, that's not true. I have lived in coastal towns in New South Wales, but I think it's still an aspiration of mine, and I always think about it in my own kids' lives because I sometimes think that I've missed that ball, that opportunity, but I'd love to still explore the opportunity about maybe moving to a rural coastal town one day. And I always think about, well, what it would mean for my kids when they're teenagers, your age, to be growing up in their town. So take us back to being that 14, 15-year-old, your family, your friends, you've got some health things going on, you've got your own, you're discovering yourself mentally as well, all of those kind of things. To then, yeah, that team that you start running with, yeah, go into that.
Yeah, well, so my parents split up when I was three. So I had two different homes. I had like yeah, my family at my dad's and then my family at my mom's. Um, and then there was me and my brother, and then my mum and my dad both had other kids with my step parents. So life as a teenager was difficult in that aspect because I kind of felt like I was living through a suitcase. But Port Macquarie was such a cool place to grow up as a kid because everyone knew everyone and you could go, especially Port Macquarie, it was a very surfy town. So we all grew up surfing. No one would wear shoes anywhere, even restaurants. And it was just like, yeah, a really safe place to grow up. And I guess it was normalized to just be outside. And I think that that's something that I really appreciated looking back on. I remember at the time, I'd be like, I want to watch TV. And I was always like, no, go outside. And I think that that really helped me sort of, yeah, connect with, Mother Nature and appreciate what was around us. But yeah, I think as I grew up, I think a lot of issues sort of not issues, but I guess I sort of started to understand more about me and realize that I was very different to most kids. I thought very differently. I really struggled in school. I didn't understand a lot of things that the teachers were explaining, and I always felt like stuff that kids my age would speak about, I couldn't relate to. And I was always thinking about the bigger picture, and they were thinking about, dresses and I just didn't really care. So I'd always feel a bit left out. Um, but yeah, so I played netball and liked netball because I'm very competitive, but discovered very quickly that I'm not a good team player. I'm an individual and I want to, I would always get angry if our team lost or whatever. So yeah, I think I would describe my childhood as I was very lost. I don't think I knew what I was doing and I'd say my childhood wasn't very stable, I think. And I think Port Macquarie was a beautiful place to grow up, but I think I needed to get out of there because it was too tied down to a lot of other things that happened in my childhood. And I think somewhere beautiful and small is nice until it's not, and it can feel really claustrophobic. And I think that that's something I really appreciate about Mornington Peninsula is it's so much bigger and there's so many different places to go. And like, driving to the Dandenongs or you can drive to Bright and there's all these different places, whether in Port Macquarie, it's very isolated and there's like, you'd probably drive to Sydney, which is like 2 hours away, but it's so like Sydney's a city and I'm not a city girl. So I think, yeah, it's good in some aspects, but as you grow up, you want to get out, I find anyway.
And then how did that then transition that feeling of being lost and claustrophobic? I think that's a great description
Mm.
to then transition. Then you talked about you discovered running because someone said, you're pretty good at running, but
Yeah.
was it someone that then in that running community that really took you under their wing?
Yeah. Yeah. So it would have been when I was, yeah, 16, 17. Um, and yeah, I guess I'd never really tried running prior to that because I think it intimidated me actually. I think that I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I didn't want to do it because I didn't think I'd be good at it. And then during COVID, because I wasn't around people, no one could judge me for how I ran. And running was the one thing that just made the voices in my head stop. And I always have like I think still to this day, I've got a very loud head and I always am overthinking everything and analyzing everything. And if people often say when they see me, I look like I've got like this like resting angry face. I'm like, no, it's because I've got a million different thoughts in my head. So running was the one thing that just made everything stop. And meeting this coach in Port Macquarie, he he taught me that I was good and not good. He told me that I was enough for how I was, because I think I grew up thinking that I was the problem and thinking that I wasn't ever as good as anyone else. And I always felt like I was sort of a step behind everyone else, especially at school with how they like, getting the tests back. I'd always get F's, and I wasn't good at maths and I wasn't good at science. And I always felt like that sort of, I think schools kind of do that. They kind of make it feel like that's who you are if you're not good at this test. But in running, it was something that for once in my life, it was something that I felt like I was good at. And people being around people who love something that you love is such an empowering thing, because I think I
Mm.
felt for once in my life part of a community. And I think feeling previous to that isolated and alone, this made me feel part of a community and seeing people that I aspired to be. I ran with a lot of like males who were really, really fast, and they were doing like sub 2:30 marathons, and I just thought that they were like Superman, and I was like, I want to be like those guys. And I would train with them and constantly just like me, as being a little like 16, 17-year-old girl, would just hang off their shoulder, and they would took me by their like they really treated me like a little sister, and like would take me along on all their runs. And I think that that's something I'll never forget, because they showed me that I was worthy of having their um attention, because to me they were like bee's knees, and I thought that I wasn't cool enough to hang out with them, but they believed in me.
No, that's really good story, Mia. The next question I'll ask you, Mia, is I mean, obviously Tom is very important. I mean, in your sort of like your life, your journey, right? Like I think you get to know him, you met him while you're down in Victoria. Like I don't know whether you're lucky or unlucky actually meeting Tom, because I mean you're lucky, obviously you have met like such an elite trail runner.
Yeah.
Unlucky is that like he probably like put you into all this training that like no female can actually handle, like to train with him, like to throw you into Archie 50K, like
Yeah.
without telling you what's up against. Yeah, so maybe tell us like how does he sort of like play a role in your running career or running journey? Like, would love to hear that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of aspects, I guess, that contributed to this, but I think Tom is the reason that I'm probably still here today, because I was in a really, really dark place when I got
Mm.
my stress fractures. And I don't know, like I said earlier, I believe everything happens for a reason, and it was just a freak coincidence how we got in contact. And he really showed me that there's so much more to life than what I thought there was. And I think the I'm going a bit off topic, but I'll go back on.
That's right.
With road running, as I left Port Macquarie, I started getting a bit of a toxic relationship with running. I felt like I was always so anxious to just do any runs, because it was
Mm.
just I needed to be better, I needed to be better, I needed to be better, and every single run had to be below a certain pace. And like during races, I would win a race and I'd still be upset because still wasn't as good as blah blah blah, and it was really, really toxic. So meeting Tom, I'd never seen someone who wanted to run not to win, but to just challenge himself. And all the races he'd done, which in my eyes was ridiculous, with all these miles and all of those things, they were never to prove a point of, I want to beat this person. It was, I want to see what my body can do. And I think that for me was something I really needed to see, because at the end of the day, it's just you against you, because you
Mm.
can't control who's going to be on the race field. You like, if you're racing against a certain person, it's never going to end well. So he showed, I think for me, Tom would be my anchor. I have Tom, and then obviously my coach, and they both can at times have different opinions, but they equally sort of ground me. And I think that Tom always reminds me of what I'm capable of, because I can doubt myself a lot and second guess myself. And he sort of shows me that, no, you've got it, but then he also hold me back, because um anything he wants to do, then I want to do it too. And there's times where he's like, you're not running a 300-kilometer race. You haven't even ran 200 kilometers yet. So yeah, I would say Tom's role in my running would be my anchor, but he's also probably my biggest support because it's tricky having a partner who does the same thing as you because you can get really competitive with one another, but at the same time I think it's even more rewarding because you have someone who understands and gets what you love and they support you because I think if I didn't have a partner who understood running, it would be really tricky because it consumes a lot of my life.
You're incredibly brave and self-aware for such a young woman. And hearing you talk, you're very aware of what's going on. And you mentioned something there just a moment ago about that growing up, and I'm focusing on this as that teenager there, that no one, you didn't feel any worth or you didn't feel any of that gain. And I know this, and this is a long time ago in my past, but I studied social sciences and I studied youth work and all this kind of stuff. It's a long time ago. But one of the things that came out of that, and it just really struck a chord when you just said that to me, was because so many kids that I met, and I'm saying kids because I was in my 20s back then and I was dealing with kids, so many kids were never told that they were worth anything. And all they needed was exactly what you got and exactly what you've just described, or that feeling of being all of a sudden going, I've found one, what I'm passionate in, or two, something that, as your coach said, made you feel good, made you feel like you're enough, as you just said. And then to be struggling with, the the ADHD or the OCD, and then obviously the anorexia that comes into that. To throw all of that into the mix and to hear you now expressing and talking about incredibly self-aware. So and so incredible. And that's why Kelvin, good man that he is, wanted to get you on here because you have an incredible story and you're so that drive now, that determination is going to see you go places. And it's just so inspiring to already see that. So, in all of that, to unpack all of that jargon that I've just talked about, you're now winning races. I'm just looking at your bio here. There's first, third, um, and you've written something at the bottom of something that you've sent us here is about your ultimate goal is to become the best female trail runner in the world. And I'm putting that out there. Okay, that's a banner, right? That's
That
going
is a
on top
banner,
right there
yes.
now. Um, how can you draw from those last 5 or 6 years to then now? Well, I can see it. It's not how, it's have you got some clear goals? Have you got some things in there?
Yeah, I think ever since being a little kid, there's always been this thing that I've called my compass. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's just this like inner knowing that I've got to do something. And it's the same thing that told me to move to Melbourne. I'd never been to Melbourne in my life. And I randomly just said to my mom, like, I have to move to Melbourne. And my mom is like a very supportive parent. And she was like, I really don't want you to go to Melbourne, but if that's what you got to do, then you can go to Melbourne. And I moved there. And I think there's something about running that just consumes all of me in the best way possible. And it makes, as cliche as it sounds, it makes like, it feels like my heart just expands every time I run. And there's something that I love so much about how much running can relate to life. And I think like, the challenges in running, I can resonate so much that in life and things that I've overcome as a little girl. And when I run, in races or hard training sessions, I often tap back into my younger self, which is really cool because people have heroes and role models they look up to, but I actually look up to, but down in a way, to my younger self when I was like 3, 4 years old, because back then, before my parents split up, I was this big, bright, bubbly girl who was just in her own world, and I would make friends with every single person that went past me and sing to old people. And I look at that little girl and just think that she was so cool and so strong and she knew what she wanted. And I think when I think about that little girl, I can see her come out when I'm running because the other voices and thoughts don't control her. And I feel like I'm free. And I think, if when I die, I want to know that I did everything I could to be the best runner I possibly can be. And I think that, yeah, I think that that's why it's my goal because it's something that I'm so passionate about and love so much. And I want to give it everything I have and see where I can go with it because it's the one thing that I feel sort of shows me what life is all about in every aspect, not just the races, but in the training and in the company that you meet, the race directors, like the whole community. It's awesome. And yeah, there's just this inner compass that's telling me to just give it everything I've got and see what happens.
So that engine that's
Mm,
driving the compass,
mm.
and you mentioned it before, you became fixated on it. It almost, cost you your health with
Yeah.
the eating disorder. But even hearing you now, like super
Mm.
focused on running, where does it become too much, or where does it become sort of too much of an addiction that it can become harmful, or but then how do you get the needle of the compass to come back the other way where it's in check? And then in who is who is who is tipping the needle on the compass, so to speak, for you? And then what do you do to escape from that where it starts to get a bit dangerous on the wrong side of north?
Yeah, well, funny that you say that because like 2 months ago, I work with a sports dietitian and she told me that I needed to gain weight quickly because I was going down a really dark path again. And she said that she was really, really concerned with how much I was weighing. And she said like if at the rate you're going, you're gonna have to go back to hospital. And that really freaked me out because I was reflecting back to when I was younger in New South Wales of that time, and I was like, I do not want to go back there. And I guess in that moment, before then, up till then, the compass had gone off. I didn't care about nutrition. I was just focused on running. And she sort of reminded me of, you have a life that's not just running and you're impacting that. And it's also impacting your running as well. So I, for the first time ever, was actually able to gain weight to what she wanted me to be at voluntarily. Because when I was younger, I didn't have a choice. I was a kid and I was forced to eat the food I had to eat. But yeah, the day of Donna Double actually, I weighed myself and hit the goal weight, which was massive because I've never been able to do that by myself. And that was a pretty cool moment because it showed me that I do have the power to sort of keep that compass in the middle because before I don't even think I had the ability to see that anything was wrong with just being fully addicted and fixated on running. But I was able to understand that I needed to fuel myself properly because if I didn't, I was going to harm my body. And for once in my life, I didn't want to harm my body. I wanted to look after my body, and I was grateful with everything my body's let me put it through. So there's that. And then I also think having a partner because I see how much it can impact Tom when I'm so tunnel vision on running. I'm not able to be a good partner because all I can think about is I need to do this, I need to do this. And he sort of pulls me out and he's like, hey, like I'm here too. So I think having my partner, having a dietitian, and also having a coach, they're sort of like my soundboards because when I get a bit off the rails, they sort of remind me, hey, remember there's these other things too. And yeah, I think having a really supportive team around you and even Kelvin, like Kelvin, you're the one that introduced me to my psychologist. So having people that yeah, around in your circle I think is super important and um it's cool having a circle of people who don't necessarily have to be your family because I think I have a very supportive family. Like my mom and my stepdad are awesome. But I think it's cool also growing up having your own circle as well that aren't necessarily blood related because yeah, there's something even special about that. Because sometimes in my head I'm always like, well, mom, you have to love me. I'm your kid. But when other people love you, it hits a different spot.
Yeah, I think Mia, I think it's very important. I think like running, like you said, I think is an individual sport, but to do well, like I think a sustainable running journey, I think the people around you, they actually your team, like
Mm.
They're the
your
tribe.
coach, the
Yeah.
tribe, right? I think um every people around you they play key role. Like I think that's absolutely so. Even you're running in a race in a training, like it seems like you're running alone, but you're actually not alone. Like everybody behind you, like either you see them or not, but like every step you make, like is something that like I think the people around you can help you take the next steps.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just I mean make sure that like at the again, I'm not psychologist. I am not qualified to tell you, but I think at the darkest place, um, there's only like I always see the things that like, it's always in cycle, right? Like even at the darkest place, there's time that like you will see light in the tunnel. Then that something that I want to talk to you now is that like I want you to share with us like what is your mindset like in the race? Like, because obviously, I mean, you have won so many races, like many of them you didn't win easily. Like some of them, I think when you cross the finish line, like you were you were not crying, but you're in a pace that like we can see how much effort you put in to win the race. So share with us like what was your mindset like at the most difficult time during the race? Yeah.
Well, I think my mindset would all have to go down to my coach, Steve Brennan.
Mm,
He keeps me in check, and I think I have there's uh two mindsets that I'll have with running, and I can't actually really control them. There'll be one race, which is a race like roller coaster, where it took me until halfway through the race to get my head in the game. The first half of the race, I was beating myself up. I thought I was a shit runner. I didn't, the runners that I was racing against, they were better than me. I shouldn't be doing this race. And then I remember seeing my coach halfway through the race when I was running up a really steep climb, and he just basically told me to pull it together, stop beating yourself up, and yeah, and then I kind of just switched, and I don't know, I call it being in the zone, and I sort of just can it feels like there's no one else there, and I block everyone else out, and all I can see is just straight ahead, and I just will send it. And that was pretty cool with roller coaster, especially because it wasn't until halfway where I kind of got my grind gearing and then
mm,
managed to get third place, which was really cool. But then there's races like Donna Double, which the whole time it literally felt like I was in a completely different world. I loved every second of that, and it was just feeling a part of the mountain and feeling the fresh air and having that adrenaline pump through and sort of just seeing like I just want to send it and give it my best shot. And I think that for me, my mindset is it's never mattered. I have a rule where I'm not allowed to look behind me because to me, if there's someone on my back, I should be running as fast as I can regardless. It doesn't matter if there's someone behind me. So for me, I'm always just wanting to finish a race knowing that I did my best. Um, and Kelvin, I think you might have been referring to the Surf Coast race,
mm.
which is when I was crying and bawling my eyes out after that
Yes.
race. But happy tears. I wasn't sad. I was really emotional because it was the first race it was where I really felt like I had a breakthrough, and I broke it. I got the time that I didn't think I was able to get, and won a race I didn't think I would win, and it was just pretty surreal moment. So I think my mindset's always just to back myself,
Yep.
and what I always say to everyone is just go hard, go home.
Nice one.
So again, I'm just looking at this incredibly achievements and the bio in such a short amount of time. And you mentioned it before, and I think I remember this actually because I was on the start line. So that would have been 23 at roller coaster when Thomas ran, and I actually remember. I actually have a very clear visual now of you actually standing on that sideline. And now that you described when you were getting frustrated and you were watching him, I actually think I can recall that when I was down there and I saw that, and that would have been the first time that we met. But I mean, at that point, obviously we didn't know each other, but this is a very good timing that we're having this chat. And there's a lot still to unpack. I feel like in incredible short young years that you've lived, there's so much to talk about. But one of the things here is that coming up this weekend is the Buffalo Stampede, and of course it's the original Sky Run held down there in Brighton, Victoria. You're heading there. I'm heading there. We're going to be down there, and I think Kelvin may even make a brief appearance down there if he can get away from some of his other duties with
Yeah.
Emma that's been on the podcast with us before. You're running in the 42K on the Sunday there, and you're in with some esteemed company here.
Yeah.
I'm just going to rattle off some names: Jess Jason, your good self, Maddie Reynolds, Sarah Levitt, Sophie Broom, and of course Jasmine Vollmer are just a few names there. Across the board in all the events this weekend at the Buffalo, we have a stacked field. It is on fire. Take us on a little bit of a journey. What's your prep been for this particular event? What's your training? What's your nutrition? And yeah, take us to take us there.
So training's basically been since the day I finished 2 days because I was not happy with that race, and I was like, right, I need a game plan on for Donna and Buffalo, and Donna was sort of intertwined in training with Buffalo. Um, yeah, so it's training's gone really, really well. I've finally been able to nail down my whole nutrition thing. I've been struggling with a bit of gut issues with my previous races, but have, yeah, sort of sorted that out. I think it was more just training more on carbs. I wasn't doing that. And training has just been a whole bunch of hills, a whole bunch of track stuff, and lots of downs. And yeah, just sort of fueling the body, fueling the mind. And Donna was a really good sort of confidence boost to show that the work's sort of been paying off. But I am terrified for Sunday because those
You
girls
should.
are so strong. But I keep reminding myself that it's like I'm as terrified as I am, I'm super excited because racing against those girls is like a dream come true. I really want to sort of see where I'm at and know that however I go, it will be a really good reflection on what I need to work on. So having them as sort of, yeah, like they're almost like a soundboard, like that, like, yeah, however I go on Sunday, I don't know how I'll go, but I know that I'll do my best. And yeah, I'll get to meet them because I've heard so much about them, and experience Buffalo Stampede for the first time, and yeah, I guess just use this race as this is where I'm at, see how I go, and hope for the best.
Well, I mean, I certainly can't wait to get down to Bright. I love Bright. I love this event. Everything about the town and everything about this community is exceptional. With your nutrition,
Mm.
and obviously it's very fitting that we have Kelvin here as part of this chat as well, and I'm sure you can go into it. Blatant plugs are allowed. But with your nutrition, coming off the back of some of those, you know, the challenges, and you mentioned your dietitian there earlier. Have you had to adapt it differently for yourself than what was potentially what would be for someone that would be, I don't want to say a standard runner, but is there some changes in that?
Uh, I think n not now, but I think that I made my life a lot harder than it needed to be previously. I was really afraid of fueling more than I had to during a race, and would do the bare minimum. I'm talking like bring two snakes on a 50K race which was just stupid.
Or as
Um,
Thomas said, Thomas, just eat the lollies.
yeah, 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 exactly. So yeah, I sort of went in very stubborn, and doing that, it taught me that my body can go a very long way without fuel. But then when I properly fueled myself, and I remember my dietitian looked me very seriously in the face and she said, if you are actually serious about your running career and you want to see how good you can get, then not fueling yourself properly, I promise you, you're not going to see your potential. And I sort of realized like, okay, I need to like really step it up. So brought myself to having 60 grams of carbs an hour, and the difference doing that compared to just having nothing is massive. And I've been training myself on doing that, and just like I feel stupid for not doing that previously because you just feel $1 million. But I think it's for me, like compared to a standard runner, it's more just having to deal with the thoughts in my head saying you shouldn't be eating this. Like, what about if you don't use all those carbs or whatever? And I've just had to really block out those voices and say, I've got to go with running. What you're wanting me to do does not align with my goals, and just focusing on that. Because like anyone with an eating disorder, they probably will know once you've had an eating disorder, it's always there. It's always in the back of your head, but it's just learning about going against it and not listening to it. And the more you do it, the quieter the voice gets. Um, so yeah, just 60 grams of carbs at the moment and seeing how it goes.
Nice. Yeah, I guess yeah, I think yeah, it's really good to hear that like you start to really understand the science behind running as well. Like I think a little bit like Thomas they that like I think when I first met him, in my mind like he would have someone that like have all these nutrition plan and 60 gram, 90 gram of carb per hour. But it turns out that no, Kevin, I just take whatever I like. And
Yeah.
yeah, he literally like I mean to me is he literally like running on his one leg, like and it just and then he still managed to finish like something like 200K, 300K race, like right.
But
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 yeah,
Kelvin, but
yeah.
Kelvin, how do you work? How do you work with Mia and Thomas in with what you're doing? And let's not beat around the bush here. Explain that you are NG1, that Kelvin is NG1, and that you've got some of these incredible athletes. How do you work with Mia, or you guys can talk about it now because I'm interested about do you get together and actually talk about this stuff about what Mia you need and then what you're producing, Kelvin, and how that can help her?
Yeah, I think that story probably wow, we probably need another hour. Like
Sum it up in 2 minutes.
yeah, it's actually quite coincident. I think last year when I was developing the product in my area, because I actually live not far from Mia and Tom. Like I've never met Mia before I met Tom. And I was actually thinking like I need someone to help like developing the prototype, the product, and to be able to test the product actually. Like and that's how I connect with Tom. And I still remember the first meeting I had with you, Mia, and Tom, and at the cafe. And I actually invite Tom, but something that I probably have never told you, Mia. Like I was actually trying to engage Tom. Like I never thought about like engaging you because
Yeah.
I actually don't know who you are. Like okay, Miah Noble, and but funny thing is that like as we like met a few times and the way you present yourself, the way you speak, like the the thinking you have is actually very mature. Like in a way that like, I feel, oh, she knows something. Like she's not just a runner. Like and I completely changed my view. Like and sort of like I thought, look, if I get Tom, I may actually work with Mia too. Like, cause I mean, it'll be good to have two one that help me sort of like testing the product, like giving me feedback. Um, Yeah, so Dave, I think that's how sort of like how we met. Like I think last year, back in May. Yeah, it's really grateful that Mia and Tom sort of like help like testing the product, like a lot of those early prototype feedback. Yeah.
Well, and then Mia, though, that you've obviously sampled different product, and we don't need to name names, of course, um, but how have you worked out? And this is a question from I ask myself, all the time, is getting the right nutrition, or not just the right nutrition, but what works for individuals. And certainly my physique is very different to your physique. But what I'm getting at though is how have you worked out what suits you better in your that to get the carbs, to get what you need in? Where is it? Yeah.
Yeah,
How?
I'd say a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
I know,
And a lot of
yes.
throwing up during races because that
Yeah.
hasn't worked well. Working with Calvin and also my sports dietitian, getting the stats is what I needed. But at the end of the day, your body is the only one that knows what's actually going to go down. It doesn't matter what the ingredients, whatever it says. So I've found that using, the Honey Boost carb drink and also Morden gels. And I'm those two combined work really, really well for me. I think the Honey Boost, I actually remember one of the races I did, it was the Sylvian 22K. I had the Honey Boost before the race, and I'd never done something like that before, but because the Honey Boost has sodium in it as well as the carbs, it was awesome because it was such a short race. I didn't want to take nutrition during the race, I didn't want to carry anything, but then having it beforehand was great because it was hydration, carbs, and sodium all in one hit. So I think for me, I've got a very sensitive gut, so I'm a bit of a pain to work with for Kelvin. But it's good that Honey Boost, if it works for me, then I'm sure it's gonna work for many people with a sensitive gut because there's no like I think I don't work well with maltodextrin or stuff like that. So it's nice to sort of have good ingredients. But yeah, to work out what works best for me, it's just trialing stuff and crossing things off if they make me feel sick and not using that again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think also, I mean, as we all know, like I think trail running, there's so many factors
Mm.
affecting will affect your race. Like even you have the perfect nutrition plan, but if the day before the race you start eating something that is not well
Mhm.
suited for you for the race, like it's gonna completely jeopardize
Yeah.
the performance. Like there's
That's what
so
happened
many
at two
factors.
days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's great that like you certainly see a bigger picture and you embrace the I guess the learning you have during the training. Like I think that like the trial and error like it is so important. Like even like you are the elite runner that like it doesn't mean that like it always go well in your race.
Mhm.
Like you just have to really keep trying. Um
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that one of the biggest things I've also learnt is because I'm a perfectionist, it's really taken a lot of work to accept the fact that you have no control when it comes to a
Mm,
race. Like you don't know what is going to go on with your gut. You don't know what like there's you can't go in thinking that this is my plan and this is the only plan I'm going to follow because if you do that, I promise it's not going to end well because that is what I did with 2 days and it's screwed up. So now I've learned that, you go in with a rough plan, knowing that, say if you said you're going to just have honey boost and for whatever reason your gut's just not accepting it, you're going to
mm,
have to drink the Coke because if you don't
mm.
have anything, then I promise you're going to blow up because that is what I've done and it's not fun. So I think my biggest tip would be have a plan, have a race plan, have a race nutrition plan, practice on that heaps before your race so that you know that it's going to go down well. And then when you start the race, know that that is your plan. However, things might happen and that's okay. And you just got to adapt on the fly because that's all part of trail running. And I think trail running, the cool thing I like about it is there's so many different elements. It's not just the running, it's the mind maps and the problem solving and all of those things mixed in between. So I think you got to be flexible. Otherwise, it's not fun.
And again, so self-aware because you just summed up everything that I was about to say about trail running. Because and you've hit the nail on the head there because that is the beauty of it, isn't it? It's the
Mm,
unknown. Trail running, and ultra running is why it's so unique because it's
yeah,
unorthodox.
yeah,
You can't go out there with an exact plan, and that's the beauty of it. And you've worked that out. But you've had to work it out with all of these other challenges
Yeah.
along the way, and um, as we've both said, yeah, you're very advanced beyond your years, young lady, in your processing, and you know, as we grow this particular community here at the Cowbell, like, I mean, what there's two questions I've got is you know, for people coming. For young people maybe listening, I don't know what our age demographic is yet, Kelvin, but for young people that might be listening, what advice have you got for them, particularly if they're facing challenges, whether it be eating disorders or you know, even their own mental illnesses or whatever it might be? There's that first question, and then you can sum it up. We ask all of our guests here at the Cowbell, what is their cowbell moment? What's a moment that where you've been coming into the finish line and you've heard a cowbell, or you've been out on course and you've heard a cowbell and something has resonated with you? So if you could answer the first one and then
Yeah.
wrap it up with the second.
My advice for the younger generation would be to believe in yourself and to not think of that as a surface level thing, but to really sort of dig deep and really be honest with yourself is what do you want to achieve? And trust that if you put in the work, you can achieve that. And not let others influence that goal. And make sure that the things you're doing is aligned with that goal. So if you're not feeling yourself properly, but you want to do really well in a race, those two things aren't aligned. So it's sort of really being honest with yourself, trusting yourself. And I think for me, the biggest thing that's helped is think about you when you were 3 years old, and would you treat that 3 year old how you're treating yourself now? I think that's what's gotten me through a lot of things. And my biggest cowbell moment would have to be Surf Coast. Yeah, crossing that finish line and just bawling my eyes out of happiness was a pretty surreal moment. Yeah, hearing my little sisters who'd flown all the way from New South Wales to watch me race for the first time, and seeing my mum and my stepdad and Kelvin and my coach all at the finish line, and finishing a race and crushing a time I didn't think I was capable of was a moment that sort of showed me what I am capable of and what can happen when you put in the hard work and you believe in yourself. So yeah, that'd be my moment.
That's a pretty damn good moment, and
That's
I can't believe an hour is up already.
I know. Yeah, really good answer. I think I love that. Like I think what Mia said, I think to set the goal and then make sure that everything you do align with the goal. And I think I can tell Mia, like I think to have someone said to us that I want to become the best trail runner in the world, that is something like is I think most of the people I think will probably say, I want to be the best runner in Victoria or the best trail runner in Australia. Not I want to be the best trail runner in the world. Like I
Well,
think that's great.
there's the goal setting right
That is
there,
the
isn't
There's
goal
the
it?
setting. I
goal
think like,
setting.
you know, it can't be bigger than that.
And
Nope.
that's a good thing that you actually signed her up in that cafe, Kelvin, because if she's going to
I
become
know.
number one in the world, NG's going to go with her, right?
I'll have that NG1 singlet on.
All right, cool. Yeah, Mia, thank you so much tonight. I think I think like Dave always said in other all the episode, like we can chat forever, like to hear more about your story. And yeah, we definitely will invite you to the in the future on this podcast. I think at that time, I'm hoping that um you will be talking to us as the best trail runner in the world.
Watch out, Courtney. Watch out. Here she
What's
comes.
yeah,
I was
exactly.
actually checking out your ITRA ratings there before. You're well up there. So even after two races in the Golden Trail Series here in Australia, you're sitting at number one. So there you go. And that's in that series on the ITRA rating, and then across the board. So you're on your way.
Yeah.
You know what I say? Go hard, go home.
Yeah, and don't look behind you. That's the other mantra.
Exactly.
That's the other
Yeah.
mantra. I can't wait to see you this weekend down at Buffalo. It's going to be so cool to catch up in person.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being an inspiration. And I'll tell you what, I can't wait to get my teenage girls to listen to what you've just spoken about because setting those goals is a good thing.
Oh, it means a lot. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mia.